There's a pattern I see all the time, and not just in therapy. I see it in radio. I see it in leadership. I see it in creative people. I see it in myself when I'm not paying attention. We know something's off. We feel it. And then we keep going anyway. That's where a lot of people get into trouble. Not because they're weak, not because they don't know better, but because they've been trained, rewarded, or expected to push through whatever is happening inside of them so the work can keep moving. Radio people are especially good at this. The show must go on. The spot has to air. The client needs an answer. The ratings came in. The transmitter is down. The staff is thin. Someone quit. Someone got fired. Someone didn't show up. And somehow, everyone still expects the station to sound seamless. The expectation becomes part of who you are after a while. You learn to function under pressure, but functioning is not the same thing as being regulated. That's an important distinction. In last week's video, I talked about awareness. You can't change the state you haven't named. This week, I want to take the next step. What do you do once you know? Because awareness matters. But awareness without response just becomes another thing you notice while you keep doing the same thing. That's where the R in the WKRP framework comes in. Resilience, responsibility, and respect. And I want to be clear about something. Resilience is not toughness, at least not the way most people use that word. Resilience is recovery. It's your ability to reset after disruption. It's the space between what happened and what you choose to do next. Responsibility is not blame. It's ownership. It's recognizing that even if you didn't choose the circumstance, you still have a choice in how you respond to it. And respect is what gets built when people can trust how you show up under pressure, including you. The last part matters because sometimes the person you've lost trust with is yourself. You've told yourself too many times, I'll rest later, and later never came. You've ignored the tightness in your chest, the loop in your thoughts, the irritability, the exhaustion, the way your body keeps asking for something and you keep telling it to wait. Eventually, your body stops asking politely. I know this because I've lived it. There was a season in my life when I thought pushing through was the responsible thing to do. I had responsibilities. People counted on me. Work needed to get done, so I kept going. I ignored the signs for too long. That's why I pay attention now. Not perfectly, but differently. And that is the point. This is also where badass becomes practical, not as a slogan, as a method. Once you become aware of the state you're in, you have to decide what you're going to do with that information. The decision doesn't always look dramatic. It might look like stepping away from your desk, taking a breath before answering the email, going outside for 10 minutes, drinking water, turning off the noise, asking yourself whether the urgency is real or just familiar. Small decisions count. Actually, they count the most because they're the ones you repeat. This is where HeartMath has been such a valuable tool for me. The heart and brain are in constant communication. And when your system is under stress, your body doesn't wait for you to write a thoughtful essay about it. Your heart rate changes, your breathing shifts, your thoughts narrow. You start reacting from the state you're in instead of the person you want to be. That's not a character flaw. That's physiology. And once you know that, you can work with it. Slow breathing, heart-focused breathing, getting quiet, changing your environment. These are not nice little calming techniques. They are ways of telling your nervous system, we are not in danger right now. We can come back. That matters because people make very different decisions when they are regulated than they do when they are flooded. You know this. You sent that email you should have waited to send. You've said that thing with just enough edge to make it harder to take back. You've made the decision because you wanted the discomfort to stop, not because it was actually the right next move. We've all done it. Welcome to the human race. We have snacks and unresolved patterns, but there is a better way. In Dead Air, the day the music died, Mike Harris is the chief engineer, trying to understand what is happening at his stations because they've been taken over. He's under pressure, and the stakes are really high. His anxiety is not imaginary. His body is responding to a real crisis. But what keeps him from completely losing himself in that moment is that he recognizes what is happening. He slows his breathing. He uses what he knows to regulate his heart rate. He changes his environment so he can think clearly. That's the move. Not denial, not panic, response. That's why I write these things into fiction, because fiction gives us a place to watch human behavior without feeling like we're being lectured. We can see ourselves in a character before we're ready to admit something directly. The same thing is starting to happen as I work on the Radio and Records Cafe, only this time the emotional landscape is different. Dead Air, the day the music died, lives in the pressure of crisis. The Radio and Records Cafe is a love story, but that doesn't mean it avoids the hard stuff. Love stories are not just about romance. They're about how people open up, shut down, misread each other, tell the truth, avoid the truth, and finally decide whether they are willing to be seen. That is mental health too. The setting may be radio, but the story is people. It always has been. And as I write it, I keep coming back to the same thing I teach. People reveal themselves in conversations, not all at once, not in clean, organized bullet points. They reveal themselves in what they say, what they don't say, how they react, what they avoid, and what they finally admit when they feel safe enough. That's true in story. It's true in therapy. It's true in leadership. And it's true in your own relationship with yourself. Some conversations don't go anywhere until someone slows down enough to listen. That includes the conversation you're having with your own body. If your system is telling you something, listen before it has to get louder. You don't have to collapse to justify rest. You don't have to burn out to prove you worked hard. You don't have to stay on until your body takes over and shuts the whole thing down for you. You can decide earlier than that. That's responsibility. That's resilience. That's respect. So this week, don't just ask, what state am I in? Ask the next question. What does this state need from me? Maybe it's quiet. Maybe it needs movement. Maybe it needs a conversation. Maybe it needs food, water, sleep, prayer, music, a walk, or 5 minutes where nobody needs anything from you. Maybe it needs to stop pretending you're fine when you are clearly not fine. No judgment, just information. That's the shift. You are not weak because your body responds to pressure. You are human, and you are not powerless just because the pressure is real. You can notice, you can decide, you can respond. That is where resilience begins to become a practice. Not later, now.